Good afternoon, everyone. I welcome you all in this session on digital image enhancement. This session is in 18th EduSat course, which is in Basics of Remote Sensing, GIS and GNSS. So today we will be discussing about digital image enhancement. By now you must be knowing what is a digital image and how the digital image can be corrected for the distortions that are there in the image. The pre-processing error, pre-processing operations that have to be carried out on the image have been covered in the previous lecture. So in this lecture we will be covering image enhancement. So let us start with what is an image enhancement. Image enhancement is modification of an image to alter its impact on the viewer. Enhancements are used to make it easier for visual interpretation and for understanding of the image. Or what we can say, image enhancement is the process of making an image more interpretable for a particular application. You should focus that here we are saying that making an image more interpretable for a particular application. This also means that for different applications, different enhancement techniques can be used. We were talking about the definition of image enhancement. It is the process of making an image more interpretable for a particular application to accentuate certain features for subsequent analysis or for image display. The image enhancement is very useful because it gives the satellite images, the raw satellite images, they give inadequate information for image interpretation. Once the image is corrected for all sorts of distortion, then we attempt image enhancement. The image enhancements can be performed temporarily or it can be performed permanently on the image. What we want to say is that in a raw image, the useful data often populates only a small portion of available range of digital values. If we are talking about an 8-bit data, then the possible digital numbers that can be there in the image are 256. The values will range from 0 to 255. So the raw satellite data does not occupy the entire digital range, but it populates in a very narrow range, suppose 10 to 40, 10 to 80 and so on. So we are not getting proper contrast, and the features are not identifiable to us. That is why we attempt image enhancement so that we can make the image more interpretable. There are 3 types of enhancements: radiometric enhancement, spectral enhancement and spatial enhancement. Radiometric enhancement is the modification of brightness value of each pixel in an image dataset independently. We also call it as point operation. The spectral enhancement is enhancing the image by transforming the values of each pixel on a multi-band basis, whereas the spatial enhancement is the modification of pixel values based on the values of surrounding pixels. Since to calculate the new pixel value, we are looking at the digital number of the surrounding pixels also. That is why we call this operation as a local operation. Now we will go to these enhancements one by one. Starting with radiometric enhancement, as we have already said, the radiometric enhancement is modification of brightness value of each pixel in the image dataset independently. This enhancement brings out the contrast in the image. It is applied separately to each band of data. What we have to see is enhancement that we are applied for one band may not be appropriate for any other band. The contrast enhancement technique, which is a very popular technique, it falls under radiometric enhancements. Before moving ahead with radiometric enhancement, we should define what is contrast of the image. Contrast is the amount of difference between average gray level of an object and that of a surrounding. Or what we can say is difference in illumination or gray level values in an image, or In simple terms, we can say how vivid or how washed out the image appears. Mathematically, it is the ratio of maximum intensity to minimum intensity. If the ratio is larger, the contrast is more. If the contrast is more, it is easier to interpret the image. Mathematically, contrast is equal to maximum gray level divided by minimum gray level. Why should we go for contrast enhancement? Because as I have already discussed that the raw digital numbers, the values populate between a very narrow range. They do not occupy the entire stretch of the digital range. As you can see here, this is a false color composite. You cannot see anything here, but the FCC is displayed here with band combination 4 to 1. Now, why you cannot see anything here? Because the contrast of the image is very poor and we have displayed the image without applying contrast enhancement. If you look at the histogram of band 1, band 2, band 3 and band 4, you will see that all the pixel values, they are falling in a very narrow range. You can see here the range is very less for band 1, for band 2 also, band 3 also, and similarly for band 4. So, when the range is very less, that means the ratio between the maximum gray value by minimum gray value is very less. The contrast of the image is poor and we are unable to interpret any feature on this particular image. This is why we require contrast stretching or enhancement in the digital images. You can see here, this is the original image with the histogram which is occupying all the values between 0 to 255. This is an image with low contrast in which the values are concentrated in the dark part of the histogram. That means in general the values of the digital numbers of the pixels are low. This is a saturated image in which the digital number values in general are more. That is why you can see the image as very bright, lot of whitish effect is there in the image. We call it as saturated image. In both the cases, in low contrast as well as in saturated image, it is very difficult to interpret the features, to mark out the boundaries between the features. So, coming to the contrast enhancement, which is the basic technique of radiometric enhancement. Contrast enhancement expands the original input values to make use of total range of sensitivity of the display device. The density values in a scene are literally pulled apart, that is expanded over a greater range. This effect is to increase the visual contrast between two areas of different uniform densities. This enables the analyst to discriminate easily between areas initially having a small difference in the density. There are two types of contrast enhancement: linear contrast stretching and non-linear contrast stretching. Basically, if the input and output brightness values, they follow a linear relationship, then we call the contrast enhancement as linear contrast enhancement. And if the input and output data values do not follow a linear relationship, we call the contrast enhancement as non-linear contrast enhancement. There are different type of linear and non-linear contrast enhancement techniques. To name a few linear contrast enhancement techniques, we have minimum maximum stretching, percentage stretching, standard deviation stretching, piecewise linear stretching, sawtooth stretching, and so on. In non-linear contrast stretching, we can apply any mathematical, trigonometrical, algebraic relationship, and we can have a non-linear contrast stretching. There are other methods of non-linear contrast stretching also, which we will be discussing in subsequent slides. So, starting with linear contrast stretching. In linear contrast stretching, a digital number in the low range of original histogram is assigned to extreme black and a value at the high end is assigned to extreme white. As you can see here in the image, in the low range the value 84 is now pulled to 0. Whereas in the high range the value 153 is pulled to 255 and all the values in between are linearly stretched. The remaining pixel values are distributed linearly between these two extremes. By expanding the original input values of the image, the total range of the sensitivity of display device can be utilized. Linear contrast stretch also makes subtle variations within the data more obvious. These type of enhancements are best applied to remotely sensed images with Gaussian or near Gaussian histogram. That means the brightness values fall within a narrow range of histogram and it is a unimodal histogram. Only one mode is apparent. How to compute the new pixel values? In case of linear stretching, the new pixel value is y. Y is equal to x. X is the original pixel value minus x minimum. X minimum is the minimum value in the entire image divided by maximum value minus minimum value multiplied by 255. So this will give you the new brightness value, new pixel value. So based on this, if we calculate the new pixel values, this was the histogram before the stretching and after the stretching you can see it is occupying the entire range from 0 to 255. So let us see how it affects the image. This is the TM band for and the stretched histogram distribution of gray values. You can see it is now completely stretched between 0 to 255 and features here in the image are clearly visible. The second technique is percentage cutoff stretching. The percentage linear contrast stretching is similar to minimum maximum linear stretching except that this method uses a specified minimum and maximum values that lie in a certain percentage of pixels from the mean of the histogram. So as we already know that if we have a normal distribution curve from the 1 sigma, that means 1 standard deviation minus and plus area, if we take, it will have 68% of data. If we take 2 standard deviation plus and minus, it will have 95% of data. And if we take 3 standard deviation plus and minus area, it will have 98% of data. So we can select 60%, 70% of pixels from the mean of the histogram, and only wherever those 60% or 70% pixels fall, these values would be taken as minimum and maximum value and all the values in between will be stretched linearly. Apart from this all area would become 0, whereas this all area would become 255. So this is what is standard deviation linear stretching. Similar to minimum maximum linear contrast stretching, except that this method uses a specified minimum and maximum values that lie outside a certain standard deviation of pixels from the mean of this histogram. A standard deviation from mean is often used to push the tails of histogram beyond the original minimum and maximum values. So this is how standard deviation linear stretching works. This is the mean and sigma is the standard deviation of the data. This is how the image after standard deviation stretching looks like. The next option is piecewise linear stretching. When the distribution of a histogram in an image is not unimodal but it is bimodal or trimodal, an analyst may stretch certain values of the histogram for increased enhancement in selected areas. Suppose I am a person who is interested in forestry, so I will try to find out where most of the pixels of forest they fall in the histogram. So I would be interested in enhancing that area more, whereas the other areas I am not very much interested in enhancing. So I will give more weightage or more slope to the pixels which represent my feature of interest. This method of contrast enhancement is called as piecewise linear contrast stretching. A piecewise linear contrast enhancement involves the identification of number of linear enhancement steps that expands the brightness ranges in the modes of histogram. In the piecewise stretches, a series of small minimum maximum stretches are set up within a single histogram. As you can see here in this diagram, this part of the histogram was not stretched at all. All the pixels were made to 0. This was given a certain slope but not very high slope. So the pixels lying in this area will not be enhanced much. This part of the histogram has been given maximum slope, so most of the pixels which are falling in this area would have the most stretching. Again, the stretching is low in this area, and beyond this area all the pixels are made 255, so all the contrast is lost in this area. Now coming to non-linear contrast enhancement. As the definition itself says, the input and output data values do not follow linear relationships. Input and output are related via a transformation function, where we can say y, that is output pixel value, is a function of x, and this function is non-linear function. It increases or decreases contrast in different regions of histogram. There can be many type of transfer functions. We can have mathematical, statistical, trigonometrical functions. Mathematical, we can have logarithmic, inverse logarithmic, exponential, squared, square root, cube root, and so on. We can think of any mathematical function, apply it on the image, and it will give me a non-linear contrast enhancement. The next type is statistical. That is a very common technique is histogram equalization, and another is Gaussian stretching. We have trigonometrical also, in which we can have arctangent and so on. So let us see how the logarithmic contrast stretching works. In this process, the logarithmic values of input data are linearly stretched to get the desired output values. It is a two-step process. In the first step, we found out the log values of the dn values. In the second step, the log values are linearly stretched to fill the complete range of digital number, that is 0 to 255. The logarithmic stretch has greatest impact on brightness values found in darker part of the histogram or in the low dn range. As you can see here, these are the transfer functions of different non-linear stretching. This is for logarithmic stretching. You can see the maximum slope is in the dark part of the histogram, whereas in inverse logarithmic, the maximum slope is in the brighter part of the histogram. So some person who's interested in finding, is a water scientist and is interested in finding out the water features, he can apply logarithmic stretch on his data, whereas a person who's interested in snow studies, we know that the values of snow will be falling in higher part of the histogram, that means brighter part, the values would be more, so he can apply inverse logarithmic on his data set. This is what I meant by when in the first slide I said that in different type of applications, different enhancement techniques are used. So we have different type of techniques, but we cannot say that this technique is better and that is not better. All the techniques, they have their own advantages, and according to our data set and according to our application, we have to select the proper enhancement technique. So coming to the next non-linear stretching technique, that is histogram equalization. It is a statistical technique and is very popular. In histogram equalization, the histogram of original image is redistributed to produce a uniform population density. This is obtained by grouping certain adjacent gray values. The number of gray levels in the enhanced image is less than the number of gray levels in the original image. The contrast is increased in the most populated range of brightness value of the histogram or in the peak areas. It automatically reduces the contrast in very light or very dark part of images associated with the tails of normally distributed histogram. The image analysts must be aware that while histogram equalization often provides an image with the most contrast of any enhancement technique, it may hide much needed information. If one is trying to bring out information about data in terrain shadows or there are clouds in your data, histogram equalization may not be an appropriate technique for your particular data. This is how histogram equalization work. In this, they have shown an example of an a hypothetical image which has brightness value from 0 to 7. So, these are the brightness values 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7, and this is the histogram. How many number of pixels are there? For 0 we have 790, for 2 we have 1023 and so on. So, transfer functions are calculated according to these brightness values, and based on these transfer functions the equalized histogram is generated. In equalized histogram you can see 790 pixels which were originally having a pixel value of 0, they are now having a pixel value of 1. 1023 pixels which were originally having a pixel value 1, they are now having a pixel value of 3, whereas 2 brightness value is not occupied by any pixel. Similarly, you can see here the tail part of the histogram 81, 122, 245, all these have been clubbed here, okay, into a fewer number of pixels. 850 has come as 850, then 656 and 329 and 245, I think they are now clubbed as 656 and 329 are now 985, whereas 245, 122 and 81, they are now clubbed as 448 number of pixels in brightness number value 7. So, as you can see here, in between the 790 pixels and 1023 pixels here, originally in the original image there was no gap. Okay, so we can say the contrast was less, whereas here we have a gap, we have a brightness value which doesn't have any pixels. So the contrast between these pixels have increased, whereas between these pixels originally there was some contrast, but now because they have been clubbed together, so the contrast is lost now. This is the equalized histogram and this is the image after histogram equalization. This finishes radiometric enhancement. So now we will start with spatial enhancement. So before starting spatial enhancement, let me also talk about spatial frequencies. Spatial frequency is the radical variation in grayscale. In a high frequency image, the rough textured areas of an image are high frequency images where the changes in tone are abrupt over a small area. These areas are called as high spatial frequency areas. Areas which have slowly varying changes in gray level are the low frequency images or smooth areas with little variation in tone over several pixels. So this is how spatial frequency is defined. The number of changes in the brightness value per distance for per unit distance for any particular part of the image. So as we know that in an image we have both the parts, that is high frequency details are also there and low frequency details are also there. In high frequency detail areas, the brightness values changes dramatically over short distance, whereas in low frequency detail areas, few changes in brightness values over a given area. I have shown here 3 images: a zero spatial frequency in which all the brightness values are same, low spatial frequency in which gradually the brightness value is changing, and high spatial frequency in which the second pixel is having a completely different brightness value. Coming to spatial filtering, which is the spatial enhancement. So spatial filtering is the process of dividing the image into its constituent spatial frequencies and selectively altering certain spatial frequencies to emphasize certain image features. It is the process of suppressing certain frequencies and passing or enhancing the other frequencies. This technique increases the analyst's ability to discriminate details. It is a local operation, that is, the pixel value is modified based on the values of surrounding pixels. It is used for enhancing certain features. It can be used for removing the noise and also for smoothing of the image. Now in the image, where are the low frequency and high frequency areas? You can see here the areas where the pixel values are similar will be areas of low spatial frequency, whereas the area in which the spatial frequency abruptly changes are the areas of high spatial frequency. So what we can say, the homogeneous areas are the areas of low spatial frequency, whereas the boundary area where one feature is changing into another feature are the high spatial frequency areas. Now filters are the algorithm for filtering. A filter is composed of a window mask or a kernel or convolution mask and constants, that is the weights which are given to the mask. The mask is always an odd sized mask. It can be 3 by 3, 5 by 5, 7 by 7, 9 by 9 and so on. This is always kept so that we have a central pixel. It is a square mask. A 3 by 3 square mask is shown here, in which all the these windows have been given value 1, which is called as coefficient. Okay. Now how the filtering takes place, the convolution or filtering takes place. A linear spatial filter is a filter for which the brightness value at location ij in the output image is a function of some weighted average of brightness values located in a particular spatial pattern around the ij location in the input image. It is the process of evaluating the weighted neighboring pixel values located in a particular spatial pattern around the ij location in input image. Mathematically, how it is carried out, the coefficients in the mask are multiplied by brightness value. They are all summed up and divided by the total of the coefficients. This would give me the new brightness value of the central pixel. As you can see here, C1 is multiplied by BV1, that is brightness value 1, C2 is multiplied by BV2, brightness value 2, and so on. This all will be summed up, divided by C1 plus C2 plus C3 plus C4 and so on. So that would give me the brightness value, new brightness value of the central pixel, which is always fifth pixel, that is BV5. The window starts from one end of the image and it goes on moving throughout the image pixel by pixel and calculates the new value. How new value is calculated? Here the window mask is this one. 0, 1, 0, 1, 1, 1, 0, 1, 0. So this will be multiplied by brightness value of the pixels. So this window mask, when we place over here, you can see 0 multiplied by 164 plus 1 multiplied by 188 plus 0 multiplied by 164 and so on would give me 932 divided by C1 plus C2 plus C3 plus C4 plus C5 C7 up to C9. So that is 5 here in this case. So divided by 5 is giving me 186. So from the value 201, the central pixel will now have value 186. The window will move 1 pixel ahead and the new value for the next pixel would be calculated, and so on. The convolution mask will go on calculating the new values of all the pixels. So before filtering, this was the image. After filtering, you can see here the dark pixel has become more dark, the bright pixel has become more bright. So the contrast of the image has improved. There are two types of filters, the low pass filters and high pass filters. Low pass filters block high frequency details. They have a smoothing effect on the image and are used for removal of noise. They are also used for removal of salt and pepper effect in the image, and they have a blurring effect on the image, especially at the edges. The high pass filters preserve high frequencies and remove slowly varying components. They emphasizes finer details and are used for edge detection and enhancement. Edges are the locations where transition from one category to another occurs. Now coming to high pass filtering. There are two types of high pass filters, linear and non-linear. This is based upon the relationship between the input and output brightness value. So in linear high pass filtering, the output brightness value is a function of linear combination of brightness values located in a particular spatial pattern around the ij location in the input image. In non-linear high pass filtering uses a non-linear combination of pixels. We can have other definition, other classification of high pass filters also. High pass filters can be either edge detectors or edge enhancers. In a edge detector, the background is completely lost, whereas in edge enhancement, the edges are delineated and the shapes are made more detailed or more prominent, but the background is not lost. So there are a few filters. We will touch upon a few filters. This is Laplace filter. It is a non-directional filter. The Laplace operator highlights point, line and edges in the image and suppresses uniform and smoothly varying regions. We have Laplace edge detectors, we have Laplace edge enhancers. How to distinguish whether a filter is an edge detector or edge enhancer? If we sum up the coefficient values for edge detector, we will get a sum of coefficient is equal to 0, whereas in edge enhancer, the sum of coefficient would be anything away from 0. We can have different type of edge detector masks. We can have horizontal mask. In a horizontal mask, you can see the horizontal coefficients have been given maximum weightage, whereas the other coefficients have been given negative weightage. This is this is diagonal filter. The maximum weightage has been given to diagonal pixels. Vertical filter, in which maximum weightage is given to vertical filters. Directional or edge detection filters are designed to highlight linear features such as roads or field boundaries. These filters can also be designed to enhance features which are oriented in specific directions. These filters are useful in applications such as geology for detection of linear geologic structures. We can design directional filters, the filters which enhance the edges which is trending in a particular direction. So you can see this is north filter. So all the coefficients of the north direction have been given positive weightage, whereas the others have been given negative weightage. Northeast, north and east have been given positive, whereas others a negative weightage. Then east, the features, the coefficients in the east direction. South, the south coefficients are positive. Southeast, the coefficients in south and east. South and west, west and northwest. So west and north. The mask name suggests the slope direction of maximum response. Example, the east gradient mask produces a maximum output for horizontal brightness value changes from west to east. This was about linear filters. We have non-linear edge enhancements also. So the first operator is Sobel operator. The output brightness value of Sobel would be, because Sobel 5 out, that means for the fifth pixel the output brightness value is equal to x square plus y square, where x can be calculated as brightness value 3 plus brightness value plus 2 into brightness value 6 plus brightness value 9 minus brightness value 1 plus 2 into brightness value 4 plus brightness value 7. Okay. Similarly, y would be brightness value 1 plus brightness 2 into brightness value 2 plus brightness value 3 minus brightness value 7 plus 2 into brightness value 8 minus plus brightness value 9. So this way, using x and y, we will find out what is the output brightness value using Sobel operator. This was the original image and the output from Sobel operator. We have other non-directional edge detectors also. The other one is Roberts edge detector. The Roberts edge detector is based on use of only 4 elements of a 3x3 mask. In Roberts edge detector, the Roberts output, 5 output would be x plus y, where x is 5 minus 9 and y is 6 minus 8. So other pixels we are not using. So this is the original image and output from Roberts filter. Another edge detector is Kirsch edge detector. The Kirsch nonlinear edge enhancement calculates the gradient at pixel location BVIJ. To apply this operator, however, it is first necessary to designate a different 3x3 window numbering scheme. So till now we were having pixel number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So this was the numbering scheme. Whereas in Kirsch, we start from the top left corner. That would be brightness value 0. We will go clockwise. Brightness value 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. The central pixel we are not giving any number. So the central pixel we are not using it in the calculation also. So like this, for the Kirsch window, what we are doing is, we are doing the calculations many times. 8 times the calculations are done. At one time, the window numbering is this. At the other time, the numbering is shifted. BV0 is shifted here, BV1 here. So if BV0 is here, so this is BV0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Like this we will, clockwise we will go on shifting for 8 times till the time BV0 comes back here. Okay. So for all these 8 positions, we have to calculate 5 SI minus 3 TI, where SI is BVI, that means 0 plus 1 plus 2, 0 plus 1 plus 2, and remaining everything, add it up, that would be Ti. So 5 SI minus 3 Ti we have to calculate. Take the absolute value, whatever is the maximum of those 8 values. When I was 0, I is equal to 0 to I is equal to 8. When you have selected the maximum value, compare it with 1, and whichever is maximum between these two, that would be the new central value. Like this, for every calculation of pixel value, 8 times the calculation is done. This is the original image and the output from Kirsch filter. Now we come to the third part of the lecture, that is spectral enhancement. Spectral enhancements are also called as image transformations. Image transformations typically involve the manipulation of multiple band of data, whether from a single multispectral image or from two or more images of the same area acquired at different times. Either way, image transformations generate new images from two or more sources which highlight particular features or properties of interest better than the original input images. The most common image transformation is image division, in which the pixel by pixel basis the operation is carried out. New band will be equal to band 1 divided by band 2. The resultant data are then rescaled to fill the range of the display device. It is a very popular technique and is commonly called as band ratios. Mathematically, we can say BVIJR, that R is the new band, ratio band, is equal to BVIJK divided by BVIJL. That means pixel value of a certain pixel in a particular band, band K divided by band L of the same pixel. So if denominator is 0, then denominator BV is made as 1. Now why should we go for ratios? First of all, to counteract the undesirable effect on recorded radiances caused by variation in the topography. Sometimes differences in brightness values from identical surface materials are caused by topographic slope and aspect, shadows or seasonal changes. These conditions hamper the ability of an interpreter to correctly identify surface material or land use in a remotely sensed image. Ratio transformations can be used to reduce the effect of such environmental conditions. I will try to explain this with help of an example. You can see here in this example, on both sides of the hill, one side was sunlit and the other was shadow area, in which the same type of trees were growing, deciduous and coniferous. So deciduous trees, and we are talking about a two band data, band A and band B. So if you see in the sunlit area, the value is 48, whereas in the shadow area for the same tree the value is 18. Okay, for band B, in sunlit area it is 50, and shadow area it is 1919. Okay, so we are unable to distinguish between, we are unable to find out that these two features, these two pixels belong to the same category or same plant type, that is deciduous. Okay, similarly for coniferous, in sunlit area we have 31, shadow 11, and band B 35, 45 and 16. So using the raw digital numbers it is very difficult. Okay, when we take a ratio between band A and band B, so 48 divided by 50 is 0.96, 18 divided by 19 is 0.95. Here, so this is for deciduous. Okay, 31 divided by 45 is 0.69, 11 divided by 16 is 0.69. So here you can see in the ratio, these two pixels are showing similar values, these two pixels are showing similar values. That means using ratios we are able to discriminate between the different species, and even though they are in sunlit and shadow area. So that means we are able to nullify the effect of topography. What are the applications of ratios? Certain aspects of shape of spectral reflectance curve of different Earth surface cover type can be brought about by ratioing. In addition, ratios may provide unique information not available in any single band. Ratios discriminate subtle spectral variances also. Ratios clearly portray the variations of slopes of spectral reflectance curves between two bands involved. Ratios are independent of absolute pixel values. Ratios can be used to generate false color composites by combining three monochromatic ratio datasets. Now, which bands should we ratio? So, to find out which bands we should ratio, we should always look at the spectral reflectance curve of the feature that we are interested in discriminating. Suppose we are interested in discriminating the vegetation feature. So, this green curve is the spectral reflectance curve of vegetation. So, you can see here in the spectral reflectance curve of vegetation, we have a dip in the red part, whereas a very steep rise in the infrared part, near infrared. So, if we take near infrared upon red, we will get very high values of the ratio, and this is how we will be able to discriminate the vegetation from other features. This is the infrared image, this is the red image. When we take a ratio between infrared and red, you can see all the vegetation area has become bright. That means it is having higher values. So, there are different type of vegetation indexes. This is RVI, which is simple ratio, IR upon R. NDVI is normalized difference vegetation index, which is IR minus R upon IR plus R. We have other commonly used indices also. TVI is there. Then we have certain other indices also. I would ask you to just go through these indices from the literature. Now, the next transformation is tasseled cap or KT transformation. Tasseled cap transformation is based on Gram-Smith sequential orthogonalization. Orthogonal transformation of 4-band data. It was originally developed for Landsat multispectral to a new 4-dimensional space or new 4 orthogonal axis. It is named due to its cap-shaped plot. The 4 new axes are created which correspond to soil brightness index, green vegetation index, yellow stuff index, and non-such index. It is associated with atmospheric effects. Generally, the first 2 indices, that is the soil brightness index and green vegetation index, contain most of the scene information. From 95 to 98% of information is in these 2 indices. The tasseled cap was transformation was originally developed for agriculture areas. The name, how the cap shaped structure is coming, you can see. Tassel cap transformation have been applied mainly to agriculture analysis of crop growth. If we are plotting the brightness to greenness, okay, so when the crop is planted, that means when the seeds have been sown, so there is no greenness in the area, only the soil brightness is coming. Okay, so we are having soil brightness. As the crop starts growing, because we will put more water into it, so brightness will reduce. Okay, because for the wet soil the brightness would be less, so brightness gets reduced. Once the brightness is reduced, that means the soil is wet, the seeds have already been sown, the plant starts growing up and the greenness starts increasing. Okay, at the time of maturity of the crop, it is having the maximum greenness, and then the yellowing of the crop start. Okay, the harvesting, before harvesting the crop starts yellowing and the greenness starts decreasing, and once the crop is harvested, it is again back to the same spot in which the brightness was more and greenness was very less. So you can see here, as the growing season starts, the data is generally around the soil plane. As the crops start to grow, the less soil is visible, so the data starts to move towards the vegetation plane. As harvesting starts to occur and vegetation starts to die or is removed, the data moves back from the vegetation plane towards the soil plane. This illustration emphasizes the theory between the cap formation between the 2 planes. This is the brightness index of the image, this is the greenness index, and this is the wetness index for Landsat thematic mapper. The another image transformation is principal component analysis. Different bands of multispectral data are often highly correlated and thus contain similar information. We need to transform the original satellite bands into new bands that express the greatest amount of variance in or information from the feature space to the original bands. The objective of this transformation is to reduce the dimensionality in the data and compress as much information in the original bands into fewer number of bands. The new bands that result from this statistical procedures are called components. This process attempts to maximize the amount of information from the original data into least number of new components. How PCA is graphically conceptualized. PCA is accomplished by a linear transformation of variables that correspond to a rotation and translation of original coordinate system. Consider the two-dimensional distribution of pixel values obtained in two bands which are labeled simply as band 1 and band 2. The scatter plot of all brightness value, you can see here, this is band 1 and this is band 2. The scatter plot of this band 1 and band 2 is is in form of a very concentrated ellipse, and this shows that the data is highly correlated. So the elliptical shape shows that the data is highly correlated. So in the first step, what we have to do is translate and route the original axis so that the original brightness value of axis band 1 and band 2 are redistributed onto a new set of axes or dimensions band 1 dash and band 2 dash. So what we have to do, first of all, shift the origin from this place to the intersection of two axis. Okay, so we have a longer axis of ellipse, we have a shorter axis of ellipse. The longer axis of ellipse is having maximum variance, maximum information, and the shorter axis of ellipse has the information which is not contained in the longer axis. So we will shift the mean from here to the intersection of longer and shorter axis. Now we will rotate the axis system so that our new axis, band 1 axis, is in the direction of longer axis of the ellipse, and the second axis is in direction of shorter axis of ellipse. So this would be PC1 and this would be PC2. So based on this, the eigenvalues and eigenvectors are calculated and the new pixel values are calculated. So in the first principal component, all the information is maximum amount of information is given. The second principal component describes the variance that is not already described in the first component. And once we calculate the new pixel values and we plot the scatter plot, you will see that the elliptical shape of the data is of the scatter plot is now no longer there. That means the data is now not correlated. So this is principal component 1, which has the maximum amount of information. Principal component 2, the information that is not contained in PC1 is there in PC2. Like this, the information content goes on reducing, and the last PC that we would have maximum amount of noise and no information. The last image transformation is Fourier analysis. Fourier analysis is a technique to separate an image into its various spatial frequency components, converting a raster image from spatial domain into the frequency domain or frequency space. Conceptually, it is fitting of continuous function through discrete values. A Fourier transform results from calculation of amplitude and phase for each possible spatial frequency in the image. The basic premise behind a Fourier transform is that any one-dimensional function, which might be row of pixels, can be represented by Fourier series consisting of some combination of sine and cosine terms and their associated coefficients. Transforms to be extended to two-dimensional function. The discrete Fourier transform has been developed because of computational load in calculating the value of all sine and cosine terms along with coefficient multiplications. A highly efficient version of discrete Fourier transform was developed, which we call as fast Fourier transform, FFT. The raster image generated by Fourier transform calculation is not an optimum image for viewing or editing. Each pixel of a Fourier image is a complex number, that means it has two components, real and imaginary. For display as a single image, these components are combined as a root sum square of square operation. Okay. It represents the magnitude and the direction of different frequency components of the image. Now coming to Fourier spectrum, after an image is separated into its component spatial frequencies, it is displayed in a two-dimensional scatter plot known as Fourier spectrum. The lower frequencies in the scene are plotted at the center of a spectrum and progressively higher frequencies are plotted outward. Feature trending horizontal in the original image result in vertical components in feature space and vice versa. Origin is plotted at the center of spectrum. You can see this was the original image, and for low frequency water body with no linear feature and its Fourier transform, this is the Fourier transform. So here you can see the low and medium frequency areas with some horizontal and vertical linear features. The Fourier transform is here. For horizontal features, the lines are coming like this. For vertical features, the lines are coming horizontally. So Fourier is very useful for de-stripping of the image to remove the noise from the image. So as you can see here, we had an image in which lot of stripes were coming. Now because for each stripe this frequency would be the same, spatial frequency would be same. So all these spatial frequencies would be plotted at a single at the same place in the Fourier spectrum. So what we can do, we can simply use a wedge filter and cut this portion and replace it with the other values, so that what will happen, these frequencies are replaced. So in the image, when inverse Fourier transform is carried out, the stripping is not there. You can see here these stripes are there in the image. The stripping is seen here in the Fourier spectrum. When we cut this stripping and do the inverse Fourier transform, we get a clean image. So this is all for image enhancements from my side. Thank you so much, and please prepare your questions and send me your questions. Okay. Thank you so much.